So in 1988, I published a book called Quantum Healing. The book was a national bestseller. However, it was condemned, even vilified, by some people in the medical establishment, mainstream medicine, including academia. It was also, of course, supported by some people in the mainstream media as well. So about 2 years ago, I reissued Quantum Healing with an introduction by Rudy Tanzi, who co-authored 3 books with me, Super Brains, Super Genes, and The Healing Self. Rudy is the head of genetics and vice chair of neurology at Mass General Hospital at Harvard University. In any case, the book has been resurrected and is now enjoying a lot of mainstream attention thanks to the advances that we've had in the last 25 years, including epigenetics, neuroplasticity, gene expression, and lifestyle medicine. Not to mention that the hard problem of consciousness has also entered mainstream discussion. So, my friends, I'm writing a new book now on quantum metabolism with a fellow endocrinologist, Brian Fertig, and also with a quantum physicist, Jack Tuszynski. I thought I would do this post today to clarify a few things, because there's a lot of confusion right now in the popular mind about what are quantum principles, what is the exact definition of a quantum, what is pseudoscience, what is quantum mysticism, what is the scientific method, and what is scientism, what is mysticism, on and on. So I thought I'd just clarify some of these terms and also share with you what my stand is. So if you look up quantum mysticism, you'll get a Wikipedia reference, which says quantum mysticism is also referred to as quantum woo. It's a set of mystical beliefs and associated practices that seek to relate consciousness, intelligence, spirituality, or the mystical worldviews to ideas of quantum medicine. So that's quantum mysticism. Anything that associates quantum mechanics or the principles of quantum mechanics to what are mystical worldviews that relate to consciousness, intelligence, spirituality, etc. Okay, so that is how Wikipedia as referring to as quantum mysticism. So second definition that I want to actually share with you is just the definition of quantum. What is quantum? And here is the definition: the smallest unit of something, especially energy in quantum mechanics, but in general, the smallest unit of any entity. And also says that in physics, then quantum of let's say light would be photons. A quantum of electricity would be electrons. A quantum of gravity is the hypothetical graviton, although gravity is a whole different animal, and that is the curvature of space-time and not literally a force as electromagnetism is, or strong and weak interactions are. In any case, a quantum is the smallest unit of any entity, but also in quantum physics, the smallest unit or smallest indivisible unit in which waves of energy, and I would add information, in which waves of energy and information are emitted or absorbed. Third definition, because quantum mysticism is also referred to as pseudoscience. So the definition of pseudoscience is a collection of beliefs and practices as being based on the scientific method, but actually not truly based on the scientific method. It is a suggestion that these beliefs or practices are based on the scientific method, and therefore it's referred to as pseudoscience. Again, that's a criticism that comes from a lot of mainstream scientists who are also opposed to so-called quantum mysticism. And then what is the scientific method? The scientific method is a method of inquiry consisting of very systematic observation, measurement, and modification of hypotheses. So the scientific method is based on theory, observation, experimentation, validation, and predicting the results of experiments. Basically, that's what the scientific method is. And then finally, scientism. Scientism. What is scientism? It is an excessive belief in the power of the scientific method and techniques. Actually, scientism is almost a religion, and many critics of metaphysics. By the way, what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy that deals with first principles, including ontology, the nature of being or existence, cosmology, and epistemology, the limitations of knowledge and the ways of accumulating knowledge. So all these terms are very important to understand if we want to understand the critics of so-called quantum mysticism, pseudoscience, and also the skeptics who mostly are apostles of scientism, which I think is almost a religion. So let's examine why we need to address these issues, because they're constantly part of our collective disagreements about what science is, how useful science is, etc., etc. But based on the definitions I've given you, I think science itself, forget the scientific method for the moment, science itself creates models of reality. We know that it creates models of reality. By the way, so does philosophy, and so does theology, and so does the Eastern mapping of reality. You know, the philosophical systems of the East that talk about the physical body, the subtle body, the causal body. All these are models of reality. All systems of thought are models of reality, all systems of thought, but they use a particular methodology. So now let's talk about the scientific method. All science is an experience in consciousness and consciousness alone. Theories are conceived in consciousness. Experiments are designed in consciousness. Observations are made in consciousness. So, even though the scientific method actually is a method of inquiry that is very systematic, and concerned with observation, measurement, and experimentation, the scientific method itself never asks who the observer is. It only talks about the observed, or what the observer is, or what the location of the observer is. Or when it talks about measurement, it never addresses what measures. Well, what measures? What observes, if not consciousness? So science is actually an experience in consciousness, as is the scientific method. And what we call pseudoscience, a collection of beliefs and practices as based on the scientific method, is actually a more complete science, because not only is it talking about the observed, it's talking about the observer, and it's also talking about the modes of observation that an observer uses. So I would say what skeptics call pseudoscience is actually a more holistic science. Metaphysics deals with fundamental principles, and therefore actually is the parent of what we call physics. Nothing to be apologetic about. Metaphysics is a branch of philosophy. It deals with ontology, the nature of existence. It deals with cosmology. It deals with epistemology, our modes of knowing and experience, and the limitations of our modes of knowing and experience. So I think all this criticism that you're hearing is actually from the apostles of scientism, who believe that the scientific method and scientific technologies give us access to truth. A lot of scientists would disagree with that. A lot of scientists would say that science, like other systems of thought, is creating models of reality. Models are like maps, and maps are useful. So, the models of reality that we now have in science and mainstream science have to do with electromagnetism, strong and weak interactions, the whole new era or understanding of entanglement, but also, basic forces, electromagnetism, strong and weak interactions, gravity. But how do we know of these models or these principles? Through experience. You first have to experience gravity. You have to experience so-called electromagnetism through observation, through perception, through inquiry, through experimentation, but all this is done by human consciousness. So we indeed frequently mistake models of reality with reality. And scientism does that more than any other discipline of inquiry. Scientism, dogmatic, religious. There are many modes of knowing. The scientific method is one, but so is intuition, so is creativity, so is insight, so is imagination, so is feeling, so is love, a mode of knowing. And so it is very important right now to address these definitions, I think, because otherwise we get bogged down in ideological arguments. And what I would like to state is no model of reality, whether it is religion or science or the scientific method or theology or philosophy, can actually give us access to reality. Only transcendence of thought. Because when we transcend thought, we also transcend perceptions and sensations and images and feelings and everything that we use as a mode of knowing. And when we transcend all modes of knowing, then we get the source of all knowing, which is consciousness. And therefore, consciousness has to be the ultimate reality, notwithstanding all these arguments and models, etc. But now let's explore the model and answer some of the critics of so-called quantum mysticism and so-called quantum woo. Critics are mostly apostles of scientism, which I think is akin to religion. Okay, so in many Eastern wisdom traditions, the model of reality is physical body, which is modeled as matter and energy, subtle body, which is modeled as mind, intellect, and ego, and causal body, which is modeled as awareness. In other words, in the Eastern models, the so-called physical world and the world of energy is a modified expression of the mind. The mind is modifying itself into what is called perceptual activity, which is then modeled as the physical body. But perceptual activity is actually quantum in nature, if you think about it. It's sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. Every sensory experience that you have is actually a quantum mode of energy and information. Photons go to your eyes, according to this model, and somehow mysteriously create the experience of a physical world. Or electrons or electrical information through the five senses creates perception, which is interpreted as the physical world. So what we call the physical body is a perceptual activity, and therefore it's quantum information, quantum energy. Anybody would agree that sensory information is quantum, and it gives us the experience of perception, but perception itself is a quantum activity because it's sensations and images and feelings and thoughts, subtle activities that we call the mind. And therefore, what we call the mind, what we call the body, and what we call the universe, actually, are models of reality that we can call quantum. Ultimately, there is only quantum mind, quantum body, and quantum universe as the best model of reality. But reality is not a model, just like map is not the territory. In order to understand reality, you have to go to the source of all models, the source of all constructs, which is being itself, being, existence. And we realize when we are there that being is the source of all reality, including the models of reality. So I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but that's the next book, Quantum Metabolism, with exercises and deep understanding of how we actually create reality, but frequently mistake our models of reality for reality itself. Reality itself is the source of all models. Okay, my friends, the book will be out sometime next year with Brian Fertig, a fellow endocrinologist, and Jack Tuzinski, a quantum physicist.